First item is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Zemer, would you read our mission statement?
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. All right, sounds like a radio guy, doesn't he? Approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, corrections, or not? I'll call for the approval. The agenda is approved. Public forum. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak to the board? If not, we'll move along to our presentation. I'd like to welcome representatives from ATS and R and ICS here to present on our referendum project.
Let's try this. Isn't it wonderful when technology works? Well, thank you for inviting us here tonight. My name is David Maroney, and I'm the principal in charge of your projects. Been involved with a lot of district assistants over the years, and just overjoyed to be here again tonight for you guys. We have tonight Nancy Labissonere, associate partner with ATS&R. Her primary responsibility are the Parkside projects and security projects for the district, and kind of generally overseeing a lot of the code things and very detailed. Sarah Fox, she's the architect that's involved with the design of the new elementary school. So again, associate partner with our company, and just a very good designer. And we've got Chris, the ICS. He's really involved in maintaining our schedules and cost estimating and constructability and just good oversight representing the whole team. So that's who we are. I feel like I'm out of breath. Okay. So let's start off with examining where we've been or what's been happening here. Okay, by the way, haven't been able to congratulate you on the successful passage of the referendum. And I know it's been a little bit of time now, but still it's amazing, it's great, and it's really good for your community and the support you all have of your community. So it's exciting times. So here we are. Tonight we've got the school board on top. We've structured the groups that are really kind of overseeing the design of the new elementary school this way. We have, of course, you guys are the ultimate oversight, but basically the bond oversight committee is a smaller representation of administrative and it's kind of a executive group, if you will, that has a couple board members on that group, and basically they're tasked to kind of siphon through all of the opportunities and thoughts and desires that the core design group might have into a manageable, balanced approach. Okay, so the core design group is what we're going to be focusing on tonight, because they are really tasked at overseeing kind of what makes this new elementary school Marshall's new elementary school, and kind of, what's the best possible outcome for this activity that we're all embarking on. Core design group is an important group, but it's also fueled by a lot of different people. They've got a lot of different user groups that are really influencing this. So it's an important group. We've had 4 meetings so far, and this is where we've gone with them so far. We started the process June 18th. We've essentially had meetings every 2 weeks. And the first meeting was kind of an eye-opener, what we call the directions presentation, where we kind of see what's going on out there with school design. And, everybody's good at seeing how they do it and understanding how they do it, but it's an opportunity for us to open up the window instead of the mirror, so to speak. So that was an interesting meeting. And we got to know one another that meeting. Meeting number 2, we really focused on what we call adjacency concepts. And basically the study activity was very exciting, where the team, the individual small groups really kind of created an elementary school using kind of a kit of parts that the bond referendum is based on. Meeting number 3, we focused on bringing together some information on the user groups. So we broadened our circle a bit and got some more detailed input. We also took some tours. So we got the group out to kick the tires and see some actual elementary schools and buildings that are performing and how they perform and why they do so. And they get to see the different elements that we've been talking about. Meeting number 4 was really right after our traffic safe routes to school meeting that we had with the community group and the city and everybody, and we focused on site planning. So really 4 meetings under our belt. We've got 2 more meetings planned with that group, and just a lot to look forward to. Of course, tomorrow is another meeting, and we're really going to be looking at finalizing the schematic plan tomorrow with the group. So we've got a couple different options, kind of parallel thoughts going right now. We want to hear their feedback on that tomorrow, and then we're going to be able to synthesize it into the final plan. We always kind of give them a look at what's happening in the next 30 days. So, tonight's meeting, we've got a new meeting tomorrow. We're going to have advanced planning groups. So it's kind of like user groups, but it's more detailed. We're going to drill in to a little more detail with the groups. We started by sharing with that group, kind of where we are in this journey. This is really what we're calling phase 1 of a multi-step need for the district, long-range view. So we're really focusing on the earliest learners in the community. So we've got the early childhood component at Parkside, and we've got the new elementary school, which replaces Westside. So that's where we are. That's what our target is. That's the bond referendum basis. We're not going to exceed that. That's how it works. So we make it very clear to them what the understanding is and what the parameters are. Kind of break it down very simply. It's a 2-4 elementary school for 600 students. It's located on the Marshall Middle School site. It's going to be about that big, okay, that many square feet. That's all the basis of the referendum. So we want to keep that on the forefront. So we revisit this each meeting and we start to identify things that might be shifting. We want to make sure our design keeps on track for a bid sometime in December, January. In other words, this fall, this winter, we're going to be bidding this project. We need to open it up fall of 2021. And that's what we're going to do. Here's our budgets. Very transparent, very open, very comprehensive viewpoint. We try to instruct them on what schematic design is versus design developments. We're currently in schematic design, so we're talking about big picture things, relationships. Why is this next to each other? Why is it that big? What are the pieces? So basically, those are all the elements. We're able to kind of share that with them. The next phase that we'll be entering after we get our design complete here will be the design development, where we're really getting into some detail and really going through the fire codes and the building codes and all the stuff, just bringing all the pieces together in a lot of detail, talking about building systems, materials, quality of all that. So it's quite a journey. And this was one of our first activities here, where they talked about, what are the priorities, whether they're related to the facilities or educational priorities. So they were able to brainstorm these as 5 small groups. They named themselves Moving and Grooving and Be Amazing. They were actually Group B, but they said amazing after it. So we're starting to own this process and have a little bit of fun, but yet, it's very serious work. So there's a lot of detailed information here. We asked them to do the top 5 out of each one of these. They presented those to the large group, and then we talked about it. What are the priorities of the new facility and educational? So we come up with what we call priority themes as a basis of that. So then we're able to take and use this to help sculpt the new building, okay? And to really create the design. And your new building shall have these things as priorities. They shall also have, it's kind of a tier 2, but these elements. Something like as important as separation from the middle school for safety and access for the parking and the bus and the traffic patterns. So it's really a very broad-based approach. This is our adjacency activity we did with them. So again, there's 5 small groups, and they ended up naming their designs, but these are actually building designs created with these components and pieces that we've provided them, and it's quite a diverse approach. So we get to listen to that, and we get to understand, why is the administration by the gymnasium or the cafeteria versus somewhere else? Why is the media center in a certain location? Where's special ed in the building? So we get to understand this, document it, and then we start to create what we call the adjacency priorities. how things are integrated, where things are in the building. And the predominant groups are noted there. 4 of the 5 groups talked about integration of special ed with the classrooms, and so on and so forth. So we get to go through here. We understand the grade level structure, how we put 3 grades in this building, that it's going to be a 2-story building. It was kind of a unanimous approach, even with their original designs. So we brought the user groups in. So we break them up. You know, we don't meet with just the music or just the gymnasium. We kind of group them because now we've understanding the adjacencies and what are next to each other. So we brought those groups together so they're able to talk to each other for about an hour and a half. So not one group is, you know, outweighing another group. So it's a collaborative effort here. So we got everybody on board with this. We went through those processes. And we start to, you know, we went through the detail of the program, which of course is in the review and comment that was submitted to the Department of Ed back in, what was it, Scott, February or? January, yep, end of January, I believe. And, you know, this is the program. So, you know, there's elements of change that are happening now as we're drilling into this and really understanding this. And there's a lot of stuff. And I mean, does this building really shift from 81,500 square feet to 83,000 square feet? Well, that's kind of where it is right now, or it might even be a little bit bigger with the current design. But yet we've got to weigh and balance this and understand where the priorities are and where we're going to emphasize the needs. These are the tours. We went to 2 different communities, saw 3 different buildings, very interesting programming, totally different architectural styles, that kind of thing. So the groups were able to appreciate, you know, why things are the way they are. You know, how does natural light get into a building? We gave them these little worksheets so that they went out there armed for some kind of focus in a direction, so that they started when they first got on the site. What's the first impression? What do you feel? Why is it the way it is? And we were able to start to kind of synthesize their notions on that, you know, that sense of the defined entry, and site safety is very important. The natural light is huge. I mean, colors make a difference. You know, all these kinds of things we go through, and now they're able to test it and move it and see it and talk to the people about it and say, yeah, that is something that we should have, or maybe that's something we're not so interested in. So a very good learning experience. Here's the site plan for the referendum basis that we brought to the group, the Safe Routes to School group. We've also been looking at, in context with our planning group, kind of, you know, how the sun works on the site and where the wind blows, how we should shelter entries, you know, all the very pragmatic things that make buildings successful on sites. But as we start to weigh this in now, we've learned a lot, and we may want to just locate the building kind of like this on the site. So it's located the same angle as the middle school. I mean, that's done for some really nice solar gathering reasons so that a lot of natural light can get into the building. Plus, it really starts to protect the entrances from that great winter wind that we have, okay? So, and why is the gym there? Well, it's close to the gym at the middle school, so maybe we can start to create a pathway that connects the 2 buildings. So now we're starting to work with this, you know, the clearly defined east side would be staff, visitor focus. That would be where the drop-off would be for parents. Progress Drive would extend north into the property, but not extend all the way through where that ice rink used to be. So we keep that separation intact. The buses would be on the west side, adjacent parallel to the track. That's also functions as a hard surface play area because we gate that. And that's a great outdoor activity space for the students 85–90% of the time, okay, when the buses aren't there. You know, playgrounds, where should those be located and how do we supervise those? So we're starting to understand the entry points. The red entry is the main entry, safe, secure, controlled entry. So it's the one that's operable during the day. The other entry from the southwest, from the bus, that's for the buses, of course. Anything from the northwest, the orange star, that would be addressing the connection to the middle school and the play areas. You know, this is a pretty schematic element as far as the plan here. And actually, you know, we're really focused on here is the relationships and kind of where things are and how the grade levels work. You know, like there's the gymnasium. You know, is that going to be designed to be expandable? Maybe we're looking at some different proportions of that gym, so we're kind of looking at that. You know, where the music is, cafeteria. Kind of here's that public side of the building with this blue kind of circulation here. You can come in here, you can come in here, you can come in from the north. You know, the grade levels, second grade is probably going to be right around this area on the first floor. Third grade right around this area on the second floor. Fourth grade can be split between the two floors. And that's, right out of the groups, administration at the public area of the building, special ed integrated into the building, into the classroom areas, media center perhaps in the middle of it. So we're going to be exploring two different plans with the group tomorrow. This is one of them. There's also another one. So this isn't the final design, but this is kind of where we are at this moment. Schematic development, literally. And it was kind of a generation of consideration from our last meeting, what we heard at our last meeting. Any questions on the elementary? Okay. Parkside Elementary. So what are we doing here? This is basically a pre-K, K1 grade, because second grade's moving to the new school. We can start to see here that we have had some consideration of priority. The bond referendum basis actually had a smaller amount of addition and a larger amount of renovation. Since we've gone through some iterations of development with that team, that design team, we understand that perhaps we should invest more in the addition and do less remodeling impact on the existing building, because there's a lot of things that just work in that building. So we're able to shift some dollars, and we're fine with that, because between Chris and ATS&R, we're going to keep track of this, and we're already working on that, and we're trying to maintain balance, okay? So it's okay to tweak things like this as long as it makes the process and the plan better. The design needs to be complete this summer, fall. We're going to be bidding this in November. We're going to open this building up 2020, fall of 2020. And that's their budget. We talk about things in terms of construction cost and overall project costs. Overall project costs have things like furniture and equipment and technology and contingencies, architects' fees, stuff like that. Not a lot. So this is the plan that the referendum was based on. You can start to see this is the main part of the early childhood area right here. And we actually had ECFE located over here, right off the main entry, the secure controlled main entry. So this is the renovation of the administration, moving the nurses area around and getting this kind of correct with modern entry systems. We had actually located the early childhood office inboard at this point through some remodeled space. And this was kind of an auxiliary entry for the students to come in and out. So with some basic deliberation in some of our first meetings, we started to shift things. For instance, the ECFE, instead of having it over here, really wants to be over here. Really, instead of having a renovated office internal, we really want to have control of this entry external. So that's where we start to see a little bit larger room here for square footage and the office as an addition to the building. Okay? So again, what isn't happening is all this renovation on the interior. We just keep moving them out, crossing them off, and we're not spending the money on the renovation because the spaces are going to work fine. We've got the plus elements as far as plus early childhood, but we've consolidated all the early childhood in this, just as we talked about. There's been some interesting, this is a schematic plan, but since then, we've really developed this into more of we're starting into design development, so this is more of a construction document. It's a very defined plan as far as square footage. That's what we're doing for our estimating now with ICS. And we're starting to understand some of the elements of this, the details. So we've got our addition here. We've got our one classroom that gets converted into an open play area. So this starts to become a hub of activity for all these rooms. So the large motor play activities are out there. They're consolidated there. So that isn't in every room. It's really consolidated there. So it really works out well. It's a good program. I want to talk about the safety and security here at the main entry. Because right now, you can just walk in, you kind of mosey around here, and you go into the office. Okay, that's what people do when they're doing the right thing. What we want to do is make sure that this entry is secure, controlled, defined. So we're going to be relocating the nurses area from this point over to here. And we're going to have direct access into the reception area. And at that point, once you're cleared, then you go into the building. So this little demarcation here, these doors will be normally locked during the school day. And this is the way in and out. So just like what we're doing at the middle school, just like what we're doing at Westside right now with the grant money that you've received. Just like that, if we look at the early childhood edition right here, this is the main entry for early childhood now. So basically, step one is that you're cleared through the office and you can go to ECFE. So this zone normally locked, this is the safe access. This zone can also be locked after hours, that kind of thing, so that people that might be using ECFE during, evening and non-school hours, they don't have the ability to kind of meander around through the building. So we're able to keep one of those exterior doors in place, have that as another zone. We've got a restroom here for any activity for this space, and but we're also able to, during the school day, have that zone opened, and of course anybody that comes in here can go to any one of the classrooms. So it's really an integrated approach into Parkside. It is truly a pre-K, K-1 building. It isn't this isolated wing that you can never engage with anything in. They're going to be able to use all of the support functions of this building. It's just this little element here allowing ECFE to function independently is kind of a nice benefit. So it's a really nice evolution of the design. And this is what it looks like. So we're starting to elevate this and render this, so to speak. And this is kind of that new entry. You can see the entry, the main entry beyond here. But as you're driving up, this is really the addition. Fits in very nicely with the architecture. This is the entry. It'll have a small covering to protect people when they come to the building. We're not going to slope the roof down so that the water pours on you as you walk up to the front door. So we're changing that kind of element. So basically it has a little gable here, and you can start to see in. We got windows into the ECFE room, windows into the early childhood rooms, windows into the office area. Good for supervision. They can maintain the comings and goings here. As far as the roof lines, well integrated into the kind of the sloped roof style of the building. Okay. Any questions on Parkside? Okay. Let's talk about Marshall High School and Maytech. This is really where the security is on entry, or the focus is on entry security. The security is on focus. The focus is on entry security. So again, here's our scope. Safety security at the main entry. We're going to be consistent with the protocol already established. The schedule is to have the design complete this fall and bidding it in November. So this will all be accomplished summer of 2020. These are some elements that the grant money basically has already accounted for. So these are projects that Nancy is working on that are already underway. They're under construction. I think you've got a construction meeting tomorrow on this. And but these are the values for there's a frame at, I think that's West Side. Yep. There's a frame at West Side. I mean, it's a door and a frame. This is bullet resistant. So it's like a B3 ballistic rating. Okay. And the labor to install that is about $2,500, but the materials are $12,500. So it's an expensive door. Paid for by the grant. We want to make sure that that's incorporated into some component of whether the new building or one of the other projects. So basically, that's our intention. Just like at the ECFE area at the middle school, there's this larger frame and then two frames that are very much like this. There's a lot of material costs there, so to reuse that is certainly an advantage. So we're definitely going to incorporate these configurations, these designs into the new work that we're doing here. So we're able to capture the value of that. The labor is the labor. It's, it's going to be installed, but basically we're able to capture the material prices. So the overall summary of this, bond project schedule. So this is an excerpt right out of the review and comment as far as the line items. The four major components of the projects here. Decommissioning of West Side is one of them. And basically, as we look at this, we're in design development on Parkside. We're in schematic design on the new elementary. The phase is pending on as far as what the next steps are for West Side, but that's not an urgent matter because essentially action on that should be occurring right around July of 2021, and so that we can kind of get that in order. But nothing can be done there until, of course, the new building is occupied. So with that, we're looking at Parkside, this construction cycle here from the spring starting. We're going to essentially break ground at that site March 2020 and complete it August 2020. Ready for school to start. New elementary, a little bit longer cycle here, but we really want to begin that construction again in the springtime of 2020 and complete that project July of 2021. ready for school. The decommissioning of West Side, that's whatever does happen there, that's when it should happen or sometime thereafter. And as far as the security projects at the high school and Maytech, we're going to be beginning those essentially in the summer and completing them the same summer, kind of like the projects that are going on now. That's what we got going, and that's where we've been. So we've been very busy. The groups have been very focused. It's amazing. The group is so consistent at the meetings, so energized, even though some of the days are beautiful outside, and we're going through some of these things together. But it's been insightful and exciting, and I think that everyone's really focused on this to make this the best for the community that it can be. So with that, I'll turn it over to somebody else or receive any questions. You're welcome.
Chris, anything to add, just from your perspective?
Well, in the coming weeks, as Dave alluded to, we'll be nailing down the plan, and then our work will really start in terms of estimating and verifying budgets. But we're kind of obviously in the background for now, but we'll become more involved as we move forward here.
And for you people in the audience, if you have questions, we will have a question and answer after our meeting is over. So it will be much longer.
We're blessed to have ATS in our, we go back a long way, Dave. You guys do an excellent job, and, we're very well represented by you. Thank you for your thoroughness.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Moving on to our next item, board reports or updates. Does anybody have any updates?
The Bond Oversight Committee has continued to meet in tandem, as Dave mentioned, with the design group. We continue to monitor and be a part of those discussions, and I think it's really been a great experience for most of us involved. So we continue to do that. I think we've had 2 meetings since our last board meeting. It is a lot. We did 14 hours of bus tours, which was great. Really actually was. I say that in all seriousness. So yeah, that's what's going on there.
Good. Our next item is a review of policies 101 to 104 and 203.2. Does anybody have any questions on those policies? This is our second reading. Building tours, a discussion item.
So periodically, usually prior to the start of the school year, the board has, in previous years, adjusted the time of their September meeting and then went and kind of hit all the sites to see what's going on. I don't believe that that's happened for a year. It didn't happen last year. I don't have a preference. If you feel like as a board you want to visit all of the sites and just take, I think we typically spend, or you typically spend maybe 10 to 20 minutes at a site, just kind of walk around and get some updates. You can do that or not. So it's a discussion item. But if you do want to do that in September, then at the next meeting in August or whenever, we would need to have you adjust the starting time of the meeting probably.
I think it's worth our time.
If you're a new board member, I'd
With
appreciate it.
2 new board members. So
Okay.
I would say yes.
We'll work on it.
Thank you.
Summary of Superintendent Munson's evaluation. I will read a summary statement. A performance review for Superintendent Scott Munson is now complete for the 2018-2019 school year. As part of this performance review, a closed session was conducted on July 16, 2019 to review and discuss Superintendent Munson's performance. As part of the performance review process, an online evaluation was completed by the school board, school administration, and other district staff. This evaluation also included a self-evaluation component completed by Superintendent Munson. The evaluation consisted of 5 sections: policy and governance, instructional leadership, organizational management, professionalism, and attributes, with various rating areas in each section. A ranking scale of 1 to 4 was used, with 1 being performance is unsatisfactory and 4 being performance exceeds criteria. And his numbers came in for the 5. They ranged for the 5 sections. It ranged from a 3.28 to a high of 3.54 with an average of 3.38. The ratings and process indicate Superintendent Munson met or exceeded expectations in each of the categories during the 2018-19 school year. The school board was pleased with his performance and the work that was done relative to the performance goals, focusing on student achievement and school safety facilities planning. During the performance review process, two goals were identified for Superintendent Munson for the 1920 school year. These goals for 1920 will be to focus on improving student achievement and facilitating a successful construction and planning process for referendum-related projects and work. So we thank you, Scott, for all your work. Appreciate it. Our next item is an action item, authorization to advertise and hire 1920 targeted services positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. Just a second. Jill? Okay, I think I got it. Still didn't work.
It is now.
Oh, there it did. Okay. Sorry about that. That is approved. Our next item is authorization to advertise and hire Title IV positions for 1920 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, guys. Any discussion? If not, we'll see if this works this time. That is approved. Anything else? If not, I will adjourn the meeting. We'll open up the floor if you guys have any questions. I don't know who wants to run this. If you have any questions about the referendum. Good, go ahead.
What was the reasoning for splitting the fourth grade in the new elementary school, some half on the bottom and half on the top floor?
Because they're the oldest students, and they wanted to keep the second and third graders together. And based on the configuration of the economies of the footprint of a classroom structure, we kind of need to have the same amount of classrooms on both floors. So it's kind of a unique opportunity to get the fourth grade integrated into both of those groups, but yet being a little bit separated from them. So, you know, I just think it's, I don't know, it just seemed like something that was very natural that the group kind of arrived at.
Were teachers, did teachers have input into that? I mean, how do the fourth grade teachers feel about being split?
Yeah, they're involved in the project, yeah, for sure.
And it's not too dissimilar from what we have at Westside now. We have fourth grade on 2 different levels now.
But I was wondering, since they had done that before, is that something that they're okay with doing, continuing to do, or would they preference not to be split?
Well, one thing that we did talk about was just the idea of a one-story building and having everyone on the same floor. And when we look at the impact on the site, and it starts to really take away a lot of valuable real estate, and adds a lot of roof, which is a high maintenance issue, ongoing maintenance issue. Basically, everybody kind of understands that you're actually closer to the main things with a two-story building. Each other, and also things like media center, the lab spaces, those types of things. So in a way, they're actually, by that configuration with the kind of, and what we're going to do is connect it visually and actually with stairways and views. So people are actually closer together in this configuration than if we were to sprawl them all out. It's kind of a neat dynamic, really. Great question.
Yeah, there are, I don't recall who the fourth grade reps are, but there are, I want to say 18 members of the staff members on the core design group who've been a part of the discussion and supportive of the tentative plan at this point.
I noticed, Dave, that they rerouted the buses for the middle school. It looked like you're picking them up in the back. Is that, or not? Did I see that wrong?
No, that's good. Those are the special ed buses back there for the middle school.
Okay.
But basically, the bus patterns, the parent patterns, all of the patterns for the middle school are going to remain as is. That was something that really came from the middle school administration and the safe routes to school meeting. It's kind of an eye opener because at one point we were crossing over, integrating, creating common areas, and it's like, time out. It's best to keep it separate. And it works right now. They're exploring a couple different tweaks, but they're perfectly good with what's on there, so we didn't want to disrupt it. So right now, all the traffic analysis that Chris is overseeing is really working on that premise of the plan that you saw and what the impact on the neighborhoods are and the community from that standpoint. I'll stay closer.
Since we're talking about traffic patterns, can you talk a little bit more about, for example, you said you weren't going to have progress drive go all the way through. I'm the director of the library next door, and actually traffic patterns don't work very well for us, even if they might work well for middle school parents, because happen to pick up at the library and not the school. So I'm just wondering how and what you're looking at when you talk about impact on the neighborhood beyond the actual property.
That's another good one, because again, kind of coming out of the Safe Routes to School meeting, when we're able to get all of the groups, that at least were represented at that meeting, it was in this room, was what, 40, 45 people?
We had about 40 people, both from the city, the police department, school representatives.
Yeah, actually, it was actually reinforced strongly by city representatives that introducing another dynamic into that pattern that exists on the north property would be detrimental, actually. So that's where it became very clear that not extending Progress Drive at this time is a good idea. Now, that's to say, sometime in the future, Progress Drive may very well go through there, but at that point, there's going to have to be some modifications to a lot of different things on the north side of this property. And right now, those are just so far beyond the possible scope of this referendum, and the city understands it and actually reinforced this decision, which kind of surprised me, actually, because we've had several meetings with the city about talking about connecting it. But as we learn more about we had an initial on the traffic study at that point, so we're starting to understand the impact of the new building and getting some real numbers in place here. It was very insightful, I thought, where we landed.
Just been talking with some of the parents and asking them why they took their kids up at the library instead of the school. We hear a lot of, it's just a mess in there and we think it's only going to get worse, so they're anticipating more people picking their kids up at the library, and the library's not equipped to handle that kind of traffic. And even last spring, we just had a lot of kids running out into the parking lot and things, and it's just become dangerous at the library, mostly at school time. So I guess I just say keep that in mind, because however that traffic pattern is going to happen, if it doesn't accommodate more people doing that and what parents perceive as being quick, it's really impacts the library.
I think the new elementary school is going to be very well defined, and I think it's a good design with a lot of, we're trying to emphasize stacking space off the street, because that's one of the challenges at the middle school. especially coming from the north for the parents. But, and I think that's probably why the building is talking about some tweaks of their, but they said, you know, we're on this. So I think they're aware of it, and I don't think it's desirable necessarily, but we're working very diligently as to get the new elementary school non-impactful to that event. And we were very made aware that by connecting it, we're actually doing a negative impact potential to that. Okay? Good questions. Step back this way. Oh, there.
In your presentation, you said the Parkside was to be completed fall of 2020 and the new elementary fall of 21. How does second grade integrate during that period?
Right. Well, basically, Parkside is going to operate still as is for 1 year, okay, until the new elementary school is totally completed, and then the grade transformation will occur at that time. So we have the appropriate amount of teaching stations to allow Parkside, because we're actually extending, we're adding some teaching stations, so it's making that better. When you see that portable disappear, that's okay, they're making that work, you know, and we're getting ready for spring construction, most importantly, because that's going to be happening sometime before the end of this year. But, you know, right now they're tightening up their belt a little bit, but the next school year, while it's still the grade configuration it is right now, it's actually going to be a little more correctly fit for that. And then second grade will move out the next year.
Will all of our, these early childhood move out of this building? Is that next year then?
It'll move out in 2021.
Okay. That'll change the same.
Right.
Because all the early child stuff will be done by fall of 2020, right?
The Parkside work is going to be done fall of 2020. And basically, it's still going to operate as a K-2 building for 1 year. And that's fine.
Well, that matters. Second grade is going to stay there.
Right.
I get that. I'm just wondering, why can't we move early childhood out of middle school over there?
Doesn't fit. It's too tight with the second graders in there.
Wouldn't have enough space.
Oh, I see.
Cafeteria and all that
Exactly,
kind of stuff.
right? Because they're going to be there for a year.
I see.
Yep.
And some of them are all day, every day.
Next summer is going to be a busy.
The rooms. that-
Well, there are some new rooms, which is a better fit for them, actually.
I get it.
But it's just for that 1 year.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
I had asked the question way back when about going straight through, Progress Drive, going straight through. I like the schematic that you brought up with basically the new West Side School being not offering any compromise to the traffic flow around middle school, basically. It'll all be off at Southview, which would be lesser impact on the library.
That's what's been stated, exactly. The other thing that I failed to mention was the notion that right now, that road has a bike trail on the north side of the road in the vehicle lane. And the desire is to move that off of that and get it onto a separate path that's actually on your site, so that that becomes more of a disengaged bike trail path. And what that affords is then the width to allow us to get our turn lanes without really doing major road modifications to that existing street. Another plus.
And also more safety for kids, because they'd be off the road.
Oh, no
So-
comparison. No comparison. Walkers, you know, bikes, whatever.
Well, the real advantage there as well is we didn't have to buy any new property. We had the space. Our school district had the space. We didn't have to buy space to build a new building.
Boy, isn't that the
It's
truth?
a real plus.
Yes.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. Should we wait till 5:15 or?
And I think I would offer out to anybody here, anybody who talks to anybody, I'm on the Bond Oversight Committee, as are Jeff Chapman and Bill Mull, so we're happy, along with, I'm sure, Scott and Dion and anybody else, to take questions or concerns, to take those calls. If people hear stuff or want to know stuff or want those questions answered at any time other than just tonight, you know what I mean? It's really really important to us that everybody understand the process and feel like their concerns or questions are answered.
Great point. Well, I'd just like to again thank the board for the opportunity to work with your school district, and it's just a great opportunity for your community to be involved with, so thank you.
Thank you.